any guilt of any person, but simply is to assess the prima facie evidence if it exists. The rules of the National Assembly do not allow us at this stage, as the independent panel, to go beyond the evidence that is submitted in support of the allegation that a member has committed misconduct, and that's very important. So we cannot conduct oral hearings, we cannot interview people, including the person accused. But what the rules oblige us to do, and that is peremptory in nature, so we do not have a discretion on that part, is that that evidence which is presented to us by the Speaker upon accepting the motion as compliant, we must present that evidence to the member who is accused, so to Mr. Botha in this instance, for him to make a written response or written representations. So basically what we say to him, we say that this is the task that we've been given so that we can make an assessment as to whether there is prima facie case against you, and here is a motion with the charges leveled against you, and here is the evidence. Can you make written representations to us as to whether do you agree or disagree? If you disagree, then you must state the reasons why you disagree. Once we receive the written representations from him, we must make an assessment of the evidence presented to us by the Speaker in the form of the motion, together with the representations made by him, that is Mr. Botha. But we do have a discretion when we do that, because the rules also allow us, if we are of the view that the member of the National Assembly who submitted a motion wishes to supplement the motion or the evidence that is presented, or if in our view we are of the view that there should be further substantiation of the motion because in its current form it may not be fair to require Mr. Botha to respond. But that's a discretionary matter, and that's also another important aspect, because we look at that option only if it is necessary and if it is going to assist us in carrying out our task. So we did consider that as well, and that is what then should be made clear. What we considered was whether it is necessary for us to go back to Ms. Masiko and say that, do you want to supplement your evidence before we give Mr. Botha an opportunity to respond, or whether we believe that there are other persons who may provide supplementation in that regard. But we decided not to exercise that discretion for one reason. The allegations against Mr. Botha are centered on an audio recording where it is alleged that in a plenary meeting that was held by the members of the Commission for Gender Equality, the commissioners, he made certain utterances which were derogatory and defamatory against fellow commissioners. It was alleged that those utterances were in violation of his constitutional duty as a member of the Commission for Gender Equality to uphold the Bill of Rights, and in particular to uphold rights such as the right to equality, right to dignity, and so on. But what happened is that in the course of a meeting that was held by commissioners, which seemed to have been hybrid in the sense that others are present and others join online. Remember that this was during the COVID then period, although that time then it was we were no longer in full-scale COVID environment. It was in July, July 2021. But you recall that the online and visual platform was still much actively used, by institutions in order to ensure that they can still conduct their business accordingly. So what happened is that in a meeting which was hybrid, then visual and physical, during the break, then the recording continued to run and didn't stop. And Mr. Botha is overheard then now talking without being aware that it's been recorded, making all sorts of derogatory statements against his fellow commissioners, and it was largely communicating in Sesotho, South Sotho. But the words are quite then derogatory. So at an appropriate time when the report becomes available, then one will be able to see the type of words that were used. So then the simple thing was whether indeed it is Mr. Botha who uttered those words, and if he did, what is his explanation? Because he may very well have an explanation to them, and he may explain why he said what he said, or maybe I was joking, or whatever. So Mr. Botha has preempted our process, of course, because he has known that there's going to be this process, and he appointed the lawyers or attorneys to represent him up front. By the time we got involved ourselves, we already knew that he had appointed attorneys to represent him, and that all communication must be addressed to his attorneys, which we did. And but instead, then the attorneys decided that Mr. Botha will not be really responding as he was required. They wanted, the panel to answer certain questions before he can respond. But in our view, that was entirely not in accordance with the nature of our panel, because our panel simply makes preliminary assessment. It's not a committee that is established by the National Assembly to conduct a full-scale inquiry where somebody can put questions and even dispute authenticity of documents, that and that. So then the attorneys treated it as if it was that type of a committee. So in the end, then Mr. Botha did not make written representations to the panel. But the panel continued, as it is required in terms of the rules, to make an assessment and make a determination. We considered then the evidence, we listened to the audios, and we were satisfied that in the nature of the utterances made, a prima facie case does exist calling upon Mr. Botha to answer before the committee to be established by the National Assembly. So that is ultimately the finding that we made, and we recommended that the matter be dealt with in terms of the rules further that are provided for after the preliminary independent panel makes such a finding, that the matter then be referred to the National Assembly and for a committee to be established to deal with the matter further. So that is what we concluded, and hence then the Secretary has indicated that we managed to undertake and fulfill this task within the 30-day period that was given to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Photographer or photographers, I'm going to request that the Chairperson hand over the report to the acting speaker. It needs to be recorded as evidence. Thank you very much, Acting Speaker.
And especially you, Mdula Stulo, of the panel, thank you very much for having at least briefed the media on this significant matter. But I thought I should point out that today, this occasion takes place on the 10th of April, the day on which we lost one of our most active participants in the process leading to the constitution making, under whose clauses we are operating today. Chris Hani was killed. And so the significance of that reality is in our commitment and loyalty to the goals of having our country run properly with the people coming first in a law-governed society that is democratic and people have recourse when wrongs have been committed against them. But it is also an important indicator of the relationships we as Parliament have with the institutions that support democracy. The Commission for Gender Equality is a Chapter 9 institution, part of the forum of institutions that support democracy, and therefore the integrity of its function, just as our own institution of Parliament, we have a responsibility in the oversight we do, in the accountability demands we make, in the responsibility to ensure that we fulfill those aims and objectives of managing our affairs with integrity, ethically all the time. And so when this matter finally is handled in Parliament, it will be the exercise of that function, of our responsibility. We think that having come wrapping up part of the process, the beginning of the process, to ensure a panel is put together that has completed its task in the given time required, that in the 49 days, if I'm correct, that are left, that we will be able to handle this matter and bring it to finality. Or whatever else is left unfinished will be handled with in the process going forward. But we do expressly want to thank the panel under the leadership of Advocate Mukari for doing a splendid job. We really appreciate your input in helping us put together, and that the committee that will be set up, if the Assembly decides to do so, will have enough to work with and to enable us to come to a conclusion that we can later announce. These are questions that are critical for us to do them on an ongoing basis, and whenever it happens, we do wish that we can communicate them appropriately and so on. The process from now onwards is that we have to communicate to members of Parliament. This is they who instructed us to undertake what we are reporting on. This is an important milestone, and so this evening, Parliament still has the authority to function. Whatever campaign is going on that brings to an end our 6th term, this matter must be communicated today in the tablings that we do daily for the work of Parliament, so that members, wherever they are, thanks to technology, they'll be able to have access to to the brief session we have had today, including the report itself that I've just received on behalf of Parliament. So thank you very much, Daddy Relabile Ahulu, for the work that is very significant and it's important. The process of ensuring these institutions, ours in the first place, Parliament, and the fourth sector, which is what I call what institutions that are supporting democracy should be called, is crucial work in the interests of the people. So thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of this. Lord, thank you very much. It's okay.
I'm the program director. So
it's demanding to lead the program. I agree with you.
Acting Speaker was to bring this to an end, to conclude. So I'm trying to assert my authority as the program director. I'm going to, if there's any question from the members of the media, either on the virtual platform or physically, this is the opportunity. And bearing in mind that the members of the panel are not going to engage with you regarding the work that they have done, because as the Acting Speaker has said, this is a matter that is still going to be subjected to the processes of the National Assembly. So it is not in the habit or practice to put them to the media to defend or to say anything with regard to the report or the work that they've done. But the Acting Speaker and the Secretary to Parliament are here to respond to any questions regarding this matter. Ibra? Okay, all right. Any other question? Okay, there's no other question, so the Acting Speaker was correct to predict that this has come to an end. So I'm going to request colleagues to remove this table so that we can have the members of the panel with the Acting Speaker and the Secretary to Parliament photo opportunity. Can we also remove this one, just to create space? Who is my name? Just to put it here. It's just to put it here. Thank you very much, members of the panel, Acting Speaker, Secretary to Parliament, members of the media. Thank you very much.
And not exactly. Running out of order.
See, I see what I did.